men and women do not want to have the tough conversations. And what happens is your woman, your wife, your girlfriend, your baby mama goes back and she has the real conversation with her mother. She has the real conversation with her girlfriend. She has the real conversation with a complete stranger at the bar. She will not confide in the man at home because she's afraid. She could be afraid of the reaction. He could be an abusive person. He could have a temper, whatever reasons she has. And that can go back to what we just talked about in the videos and so on and so forth. So I would say that I would advise people to really try to have those tough conversations, because Dub and Trey and Lady M are not the person that you're laying in the bed with.
All right.
You are doing yourself a disservice if you have not given your real perspective on the relationship, on sex, on anything. If the man's sex is whack, if you have not taken it upon yourself to explain why his sex is whack, I blame you just as much as I blame him, because he's not focused and he's doing whatever he thinks is, like we talked about in the old podcast. He's doing that one move he's been doing since high school.
The one move since high school.
Yeah, and he think he the shit. And she's calling her girlfriend every day like, I can't do this. I'm tired. I really don't want to do this today. And so I just think that when we were having a conversation, I'm just like, we got to start having these tough conversations with one another when you're in a relationship, instead of going outside of the actual person. Because once you do that, now you're just making assumptions. And this is really what I hear. I just hear a whole lot of assumptions from women who have been dealing with men and have the results are the facts for the women. They have the results because the relationship didn't work out. They were cheated on. But did you have a real conversation with your man at any point in time about how you really felt? Or did you go through the relationship just trying to avoid that tough conversation? So that's really what I really wanted to say. Just think about that. I think that it's tough for men too to have those real conversations, because if either one says something wrong, the interpretation gets twisted and you can repeat, I didn't say that. Well, that's not what I mean. Those are real common responses that you hear when men and women talk.
Right.
But you have to kind of put yourself in that person's shoes. As I'm listening to Lady M, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes, when it comes to the results that you get, the results that women get, right? But I'm speaking from a man's perspective, and I'm saying, hey, these are things I really don't see. But like I said, certain things are really cut and dry, like sex. If a man has whack sex and if he's not pleasing you, that's a clear conversation that needs to be had. And if it has never been had, I have to put responsibility on the woman as well, because if she's calling her girlfriend about whatever, and it don't necessarily have to be sex, but because that was, it eluded from our original statement when we said how men think initially, physical. So, if you confiding in your girlfriend, could she probably give you great advice in certain things? Absolutely. But it doesn't mean anything if you haven't talked to your man about it. And that's my point. If you're not talking to your man about your true feelings, you're doing yourself a disservice, because what he's going to do unknowingly is make the shit worse.
Yeah.
He's going to make it worse. I can promise you. I do not care what you're talking about. I don't care what your topic is. Sex, finances, responsiveness, compliments, consistency. If you don't have the guts to have that conversation with that man, I blame you as well. You are just as responsible as the man. So then when you come back and say, I'm single because of this, yes, you are single because of this, but it's your fault too.
Yeah.
You got some responsibility too, because when I have these conversations with people, even with my brothers, I say, does she know that? Did you have a conversation with her? As soon as they tell me no, I said, why are you talking to me? Why, like, okay, I understand, but if you haven't talked to her, you don't even know what the reaction is going to be, because you could have somebody that could stop exactly what they're doing and say, you know what, I'm sorry. And then you can have somebody say, I don't give a shit. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
But
at least you know the answer.
But that's the point. At least you know the answer at the end of the day, and you'll be able to sleep, not having to say, damn, I wonder if I would say that most women go to sleep with a lot of questions about the relationships that don't work. They do understand the results because a man either has ended it or the man fucked up, right? But I think the woman has a lot of questions, and I think that has a lot to do with it, because they don't feel comfortable coming to the man having that conversation. And that's really my point in it. I think we really need to have those tough conversations, and it's okay to get that reassurance or that opinion from other people, but it means absolutely nothing if you're not coming to the table with the person that you're dealing with. And once again, ladies, we are going to make it worse if you don't come to the table, because we are not like-minded on no level. So if you go to your girl, if you've been going to your girlfriends for the last 6 months because you got a problem with this man and you haven't said anything, it's your fault. It's your fault.
And you don't know how he don't see it.
Right.
You say, well, he knows this, and how do you know? If he has not said that to you and y'all haven't had the dialogue, if he's just going through and he's coming in, going through the motions, and you like, and what you know what he does? He feeds off your energy. And now he think you got an issue. He think you being difficult. So then he starts acting out. So now you created this layer of confusion that men don't like playing. Men will just leave it alone. Men go say, man, I'm a chill.
Right.
But he not really even know. Yeah. He don't even know what the real issues are. And a lot of women will come back and say, well, you're a grown man. I'm not about to build a dude. You're supposed to know this and you're supposed to know that. All of that sounds good, but we wouldn't be having this conversation like we're having. Men and women need to communicate better. And once again, ladies are way more complicated than men. So the person that should be communicating the most is the woman, because we're not that picky when it comes to different shit. You in the first 2 couple dates of a woman, she done already wrote down or memorized everything that this man likes. She's very detailed on different things. She pays attention. She understands what his favorite colors is. He know what kind of food he like. Men don't do that type of shit. Typically, the men that do, kudos, hats off to those men that pay attention. But most men got so many other obstacles going on and ripping and running, they can't even direct themselves, let alone try to figure out what their lady is thinking. And once again, it just behooves you to try to do that. I think that's a critical piece here. So
I agree with pretty much everything you just said, Trey. And I think that this is why it is important for men and women to be single. And while you are single, both men and women need to do the work, because men and women will get into a relationship after being single, have not really worked on themselves, right? And when I say work on themselves, like looking at things that makes them a horrible person. Because don't nobody want to think of themselves as a horrible person. But guess what? We all are horrible individuals. Right?
You horrible. You talk about yourself.
Whatever.
Yeah, not me. I'm amazing.
Of course. So breaking that, breaking it all the way down to our horribleness, right? And then building it back up to what we want, to what we want to be, how we want to see ourselves, like how we want to show up in relationships. And that's why I really, really, really believe that both men and women, when they are single, they just need to be single. Like, be single, do the work on yourselves, because what happens is when we don't do that and we jump into relationships with each other, we in the relationship traumatizing the hell out of each other, because men don't want to be vulnerable with their women. We scared to talk to our man because is he going to shut us down? Is he going to reject us? Is what we're saying, are we going to be naggy? Like all of these negative. But when you really stop and you really do the work individually and you come together, yeah, as a man, you might not want to hear that shit today. But babe, I really got to talk to you about this. Like, it's been on my mind. I really, you know what? Let me step outside myself. She really need to talk. Let me just hear her out for a second. And it may be something so simple like, I don't like when you put the dishes in the dishwasher and you bunch them all together. Can you just space them out from now, or make it two different loads? Like, it could just be shit like that. Right. You know what I'm saying? But I really don't know what it is. Like, I can't put my finger. I really can't put my finger on it, because it's like, okay, we want to come together. We want to be together. And it's no secret that men and women are totally different. Our perspectives are different. The way we view the world is different, but we want to come together and be in a relationship with each other with different perspectives, different views, sometimes different morals, right? Or the way, so it's like, we want to come together and we want to be one, but how are we going to be one if we can't even communicate with each other? Like, that's the number one. That's the only way to have a relationship is through communication. And yeah, should a woman overly communicate with her man? Yeah, but at some point, it's like, y'all gotta kind of do the work too. Like, somebody, like, I don't want to continue to have to keep overly communicating. Like, you have to be able to be vulnerable with your woman. Right. And, as women, we got to be reciprocated. We have to create that safe space for men to want to be vulnerable with us. I mean, it's just, and vice versa. Men have to create a safe space for women. And, I just think that we want so bad to figure each other out, instead of understanding that I can't figure out a man because I'm not a man, but I'm a woman. And like, as you said earlier, Trey, just understanding or looking or putting yourself in that other person's shoes, right?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with what you're saying. And, but you did say something that I find very interesting when you say you should be single and work on yourself. Both people should work on themselves. When thinking about what you said, I would like to get your opinion on a question regarding that process. Mm-hmm. Because I believe men would probably challenge that and say, well, when I try to work on myself, just to play devil's advocate, when I try to work on myself, it's almost like it's a time frame, so to speak, in certain situations where the woman is ready to evolve and move into the next phase. And I truly believe that women are way more advanced when it comes to this type of topic, right? They can envision a specific thing if the man is worthy of that, and they know how to get to that point. They're ready to evolve into that next phase. Whereas though the man typically moves a little slower, typically is unsure, it may even be more insecure in a lot of ways. So would you say that women put pressure on men to get into that next phase when it's from single going into an actual relationship? Or would you say it's kind of, it depends on the situation? Because from what I've seen and from my own experience, it was always a situation where the woman needed and wanted more when the man typically is not ready to give more. He may still be working on himself. Now, granted, working on yourself don't mean 5-10 years. You can definitely bring that back to me, throw that back at me. But I just want to get your perspective on when you're do women truly want a man to work on himself in that single phase? Because it just, from my experience, it just feels like impatience. It sounds like the woman is just ready to go into that next realm. So I just wanted you to kind of throw some light on that and give me your how you feel about it when it comes to that. Because I would say men feel like, well, every time I try to say I want to fall back and I'm working on me and I got a lot of other things, and she's like, nah, are we together or we not? So I want you to speak to that.
So this is what I want. I really want my kings. I ain't called y'all kings all show. what I want my kings to do is I really think that you guys should not even engage in any type of dating until you can really put forth that, because even when you're dating, it's still a relationship. It's still whatever type of ship it is, it's a ship. You understand what I'm saying? And right. I think that men should just, when they are working on themselves, just refrain from dating. Like, so in my last couple years of like dating, I ain't going to say a couple years. I'm going to say my last, let's say like 2 years of dating, right? Mm-hmm. I've ran into men who, we start talking and, as you're talking to him, you talking about, past things. And then you realize like, oh, this nigga still hung up on his ex. So you're still in a mental space where you can't even devote a real opportunity to me because you still hung up on some past shit, which is telling me that you should not be dating. You should not be dating. Do not date us. Don't do just hang with your boys. Chill out with the fellas. When you go out, you don't feel no pressure to give a woman your phone number, even if she a baddie. Because a lot of times when women are out, we're not looking to just hump. Like, the majority of women are not looking for that. And I think men know that already. Right. But there's a level of, I don't care, that's tied to that. Like, you want what you want when you want it because you see it. You get what I'm saying? So when I say,
let me ask you a question about that.
Mm-hmm. All right, go ahead.
So before we get into that next phase, so when you say don't date because of those reasons, is that really the responsibility of the man, or is that the responsibility of the woman? And the reason why I'm asking that,
no,
when you say, let me ask, the reason why I ask you when you say men don't date because of what the woman is going to expect, or the woman is going to want, or that the woman is going to experience, my rebuttal to that would be, the man is typically dating to find out what it is that he actually wants. The man typically dates to find out what he likes and what he doesn't like when we're talking about, a relationship. I completely agree with you that in the midst of dating, it is a ship, like you said. It is a relationship of some sort without the commitment, right? Because the woman is dating other people and the man is dating other people. But just because the woman has a certain level of expectation or a certain level of morality when it comes to the goals of her, or what she wants in the future, it makes me feel like the woman is skipping her accountability process and her barriers and her filters on what she needs to do. And we're just saying men need to not date. I disagree with that. I believe men should actually date because that's the only way he's going to find out what he wants. And granted, will there be some people that get hurt in the process? Absolutely. But don't think that there aren't women hurting men in the process too. Women have the ability to date and not take a date seriously. And that the man might go spend in a month, he get, $200-300 a night and for 2-3 months, and then she wake up one day and say, you know what, I'm not really feeling him. I really like another guy. And she moves on to the next guy. So what I'm trying to show is that there is a give and take on both sides when it comes to dating. So when you say men shouldn't date because of what a woman is going through, I would only challenge that, because if you're going through something and you're not getting what you want out of the situation, you should be changing for yourself and not expecting the man just not to date because he hasn't found himself or whatever it may be. Those things happen through experiences with other people. Friendship, friends as well. I will give you that. Hanging out with older guys who've been through things, finding out yourself spiritually, physically, and mentally, getting therapy like we talked about earlier. But that doesn't mean he shouldn't date, because what that tells me is that the woman is saying you shouldn't date because you're going to let me down in so many words, and I don't have time for that. And I get that, but the woman has to be accountable to filter out those guys who are not ready for a certain type of dating, meaning dating with a purpose, if you will, right? And that's kind of what we're talking about. So if the woman isn't making that effort, and I granted men can lie, men will lie to that extent. So I'll throw that out there. It's not like everybody just has integrity, but what I will say is that I just believe that women should take a lot of that accountability when it comes to men just shouldn't date, if that's how women feel, to spread that out a little bit with them and say, hey, maybe I need to select a certain type of man and find with a man that's putting some words and action behind it, versus a man that's really kind of in limbo. And so for a woman to say, well, how do we know that? We don't have time to figure that out, or we don't have time to work that out. How do we know that a man is going to be dating with a purpose? So that's kind of my thing. I just think that men should be allowed to date if they don't know what they want, because that's how they're going to find out what they want, to some degree. So, and the reason why I say that is because men don't have that type of vision. What makes you a woman and what makes you valuable and what makes you special in today's society is that vision, is that connection, is that thing that you can't really put a word, is that motherhood. Men don't have that. We base things off of experience, good and bad. So with that being said, I just would challenge that concept of men just shouldn't date until they're ready. And maybe you can elaborate and get a little more in detail with it about what you mean by that. But if that's what it is, just because he's not dating with a purpose, just like for a woman, she should be, she may not know what she wants, and she should be dating until she finds out something that's compatible. You can let me know how you feel about that, lady.
The reason why I gave you that response is because you asked me what can men do, to work on themselves and not date. And I personally feel, okay, if we're talking about both men and women, then yeah, both men and women should not be dating unless they're dating with a purpose. Because at the end of the day, if you're dating, then what's the purpose? Like, if you're dating, your purpose is to find out what you want and what you don't want. Okay, cool. But if you are still traumatized by a past relationship or by, just by anything, if you don't really have, because what dating is not just about talking to somebody. Dating involves, you're going to be spending money, you're going to be sacrificing time, there are things that are involved with dating.
Yeah.
It's just not
you have
us
trauma, I
talking and
agree.
texting over the phone. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that both men and women need to stay fucking single. And when I say single, alone,
Right.
and not put themselves in the dating pool until they can actually really give what it takes to give to date. It's a lot to date. You know what I'm saying? Dating ain't just let me hit shorty up, like, nah. Well, let me hit this dude up because I'm hungry. Nah. You know what I'm saying? Dating, there's a lot that goes into dating. So, and that's why I said, like, although it's not a relationship, it's a ship. Because you're investing your time, you're investing your money, you're investing, it's just all of these things that you're already investing when you're dating someone. And 9 times out of 10, you're not dating like 5 people at a time. That's a lot. You might be dating 1 or 2 people at the same time, but you're not dating more than, let's say, 3 people at the same time. That's a lot. Now, talking or just, humping around or whatever you want to do, okay, that's different. But when you're talking about dating, getting to know someone, getting to know their history, spending that time, like really trying to see what this person is about, that's energy. Hell yeah. And if you're not ready for that, but that's where the accountability comes in on both parts, because if you know you're not ready, don't put yourself into something that you're not ready for, period.
I agree with that.
If I apply for a job that I know that I'm not qualified for, and I apply for it and I get the job, but now I have to show my qualifications and I can't do it, like, come on.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I agree with that for the most part. I just, like I said, I just think that, like you said, both sides should be accountable. And with the trauma, that's 100% agree with that. You shouldn't even be, if you have trauma, you shouldn't even be dating at all, because you got some things you need to work on for yourself to just better yourself. You shouldn't be trying to put that energy and traumas on other people, and you're going to have triggers. And some would say we all have traumas to some degree, but being able to recognize what those traumas are, and being able to be accountable, so to say, these are, when you're dating, these are the things that I'm comfortable with, and things that I've gone through, and this is what I've overcome in life, so you can get a better understanding of me throughout this dating process. So having that understanding, and versus somebody being naive and just pushing it off and letting the next person have to deal with it. So, and
this is the thing too, Trey, when we do take that time and we are single and we work on our traumas, or we work on ourselves, and we we break ourselves down and build ourselves back up, then we can already recognize the BS. So if I'm talking to a dude for 1 or 2 days off the rip and I'm hearing it, I can recognize the bullshit. If you're talking to a woman 1 or 2 days and you hearing little signs, you can recognize it. And then that way it's easy for us to stop what's going on. When we're in this clouded space and we're still operating off of past traumas, we can't see anything. Because what we want to see the most is that you're not like the past. You're not like the guy that I just stopped dating 2 months ago. You get what I'm saying? So I think that's why it is important. It is so, so, so important for people to, once you come out of a situation, hey, go sit your ass down somewhere for a second. Be single, sit your ass down, analyze what happened. Like, you got
man, these fellas be like, what? Let's get it. We on to the next.
Right.
They're like, man, what's better than old? Something new.
And listen, the ladies do the same thing. Girl, please. What about someone that tried to holler at you last week? See what he doing?
Just piling shit on top of shit.
Yeah. For real.
Yeah. So I wrote a few things down while y'all was talking, because there's some points I kind of wanted to make, going back to a few things, right? So one of the things that you said, Lady M, was about people like who's supposed to be single, but then they jump, like they get into another relationship before they should, and all the other stuff, and why they do it. So I think people do that because they're afraid to miss out. They think that that next person could be the right person, and instead of telling that person, nah, I think I still need to be single, it's a fear that, you know what, this could be the right one.
Right.
So even though I got all this baggage that I brought that's still with me from a past relationship, I'm scared to miss this one because this could be the one. And after 5 of those, now you on number 6 could be the ones.
Right.
And now you're mad at the past 6 because you took that chance 6 times. Instead of just saying, nah, I'm good. And if you are the one, you will come back around again.
Yep.
Right. So I think that's a fear thing. I think that's why that happens. Right. And then another thing you guys were talking about communication with sex and things like that. And I know we were talking about women not having that conversation. But what I will say is, fellas, we also have to learn to have those conversations with our women. And since we were talking about the sex piece, and sometimes men don't have that conversation with their wives or their girlfriends, their long-term girlfriends, saying, hey, listen, you're not doing it for me anymore, or whatever that is. That's a hard conversation for a man to have. But men also need to start working on having those conversations instead of going out and finding it elsewhere.
Absolutely.
Right.
You know
I
what
agree.
I'm saying? So both parties in different circumstances. One is about pleasure, one is about boredom, I guess. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But still,
Right.
both parties need to start having those hard conversations to get to some resolve. Right. So that's what I wanted to say about that piece. Then you guys were talking about working on yourself. When someone is saying work on yourself while you're single, we're not talking about going to the gym and getting your body right. We're not talking about making yourself attractive so the last person is you're gonna show them what they're missing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about going to make more money so you can go buy the car you always wanted, or go make more money and buy the house you always wanted, or go taking the trips you always wanted to take. Those things are not working on yourself. Working on yourself is about gaining a spirituality or a spiritual sense about you and who you are that you didn't have before, about understanding yourself deeper, about understanding your triggers and whether or not you know how to control the emotions when those triggers are hit. It's not about getting rid of the triggers. Right. So sometimes like therapy isn't always about getting rid of the trigger. It's about controlling the emotional response to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there's just some things that aren't going to leave your mind.
Right.
Like traumas don't go away. You just learn how to emotionally deal with them.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's working on yourself.
You better say something, Doug.
You know what I'm saying? And then I think another part about it is that people need to understand is that when you're working on yourself, you need to ask yourself, are you ready to serve? Because that's a relationship. Are you ready to serve? If your goal is to go out and find someone for you that does this for you and does that for you, you are looking for someone from a recipient point of view. You are looking at a person saying, what is this person going to give me?
And that's not a relationship.
You are not thinking about what you're giving that other person.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You should be in a space of serving, right? Even men from being leaders of the relationship, leaders know how to serve. That's what makes a good leader. If you think about any good leader you've ever had in your life, a good leader knows how to serve.
Mm-hmm.
That's what leadership is.
Absolutely.
Leadership is taking care of your people.
Absolutely.
Meeting their needs. That's serving. So if you're not in a space to serve, then you're not ready for a real relationship, because relationships are giving way more than they are receiving. And if both people are giving, that's great. That's a perfect relationship.
Right.
Both of y'all are giving. Both of y'all taking care of each other. Right. So you got to be ready to serve. That's what working on yourself is. Damn the car, damn the house, damn the trips, and
the
going
BBLs.
all that shit. That's great. All that's perfect. But if you bring the same spiritual, emotional, and the same mindset, you just a shell of what you was just last year. You ain't changed. Physically, you changed. You got a new car, new house, new body, but you still the same fucked up person. The other thing I was going to talk about, you talked about having that conversation, how it's hard to talk about small things. Like, I think you talked about like dishes being stacked weird in a dishwasher or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one thing that men have to work on is we have to work on checking out ego, where I think that we've heard so long, or it's been so loud, that men should be the leader of the relationship. Men should lead. And it's true. I thoroughly believe in that. But leadership doesn't mean you can't be checked.
Correct.
Leadership doesn't mean that your ego won't get hurt or damaged.
Right.
And I think men and women don't really know what that means, to allow a man to lead. It doesn't mean he's fully in control all the time. That's not what that means. And for the men out there who thinks that's what it means, who's like, oh no, ain't no woman gonna check me or say this to me or say like that to me, like that's an ego thing.
Right.
Because there are some men that are like that. But
that's an ego thing. If you are a strong man, and men like to compare themselves to lions all the time. Men are lions, we savages, we beasts or whatever. Well, if that's the case, then you need to be a lion emotionally too. What that says, what that means is, emotionally, do you really get your feelings hurt that easy if your woman says something to you that, I mean, it wasn't disrespectful, but it came with a little bit of attitude?
Right.
Because
or she misunderstood you,
or whatever it is. Because if you're a certain kind of man, you're going to have a strong woman that you need to put you in your place and check you.
Right.
Because that's what she does.
Have some patience. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you claim to be this strong guy and you find yourself a strong woman, you need to be ready to deal with a strong woman.
Yeah.
And then when she shows her strength, don't play the emotional game with her that, oh, you challenging my manhood. Right? You challenging my manhood. I'm supposed to be leading. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying? So I'm talking to the fellas, like, know who you are. Everybody's not meant to be this alpha that everybody keep talking about being alpha this, alpha that. A real alpha male understands that there's still a feminine side to being a male that the woman brings out of you. Because that's how we can relate to each other.
Absolutely.
That's
masculine and feminine are only energy. And men get so mad. They take it so personal when it's like you're in your feminine energy. I ain't now feminine energy, but oh my God. All right.
And we have to be in order to relate to our women. That's what y'all don't understand.
You got to be able to show that compassion.
You got to show that compassion.
You have to.
Right? And that's in life. I have a younger son and a younger daughter. The only way I can relate to them is to think like a child.
Right.
That's it. The only way I could play games with my children is to think what's fun for a child.
Right.
I have to change my energy in what I am and how I'm thinking to relate to my children. That's the same thing when it comes to relating each other in a relationship, but people just choose not to do that.
Choose not to do it.
Yeah.
When you think you've already lost soon as you start thinking that you've won or lost anything. When you start counting, when you start looking at a relationship in a manner of a competition, the relationship is over. Because you are not in the mindset of service, like Dub said.
Yeah.
You're in the mindset of, I've done this. Why hasn't she done that? And it shouldn't matter.
Right.
You should be doing it because you're not looking for a response or a reaction. You're doing it because you love to do it. And regardless if she decides to leave or stay, you're content and happy with that because you're just being you. This is the man that you are. You're not doing it to try to keep a woman or keep a man. You're doing it for that service, like you talked about, Dub, and having that mindset. That I want to make sure that I'm clear that the examples that Dub is giving isn't to keep a woman. It should be who you are.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Because if you do what Dub said, that's just putting on a mask.
And it's on. You're gonna have to take it off eventually.
You're gonna have to take it off eventually. So
absolutely
understand that what Dub says, I agree with 100%. But you need to make sure that's really you, because that won't last long. And if you can prolong it, it will eventually blow up in your face and in her face, and vice versa. This goes for women as well. I'm just saying for the men, I think it's heavier for the men because most women don't live in that type of relationship in that capacity when it comes to who they are and their emotions. Those things come out right away. Those things are prevalent really easy and quickly. But for the men, Dub touched on some real good key points. But I want to make sure that you understand that's not some temporary thing that you need to be. That needs to be who you are as a person. You should be changing for you. You should be changing for yourself first to make yourself a better man so you can be a better boyfriend or a better husband or a better father or whatever it may be. And it goes for the children example too. You can't just be a temporary good dad. You need to apply all those things to your life for you, not just for your children. Because once again, the real you will come out. It may come out when you've had a little bit too much to drink. It may come out at any point in time when you're stressed out and frustrated. And now your child is looking at, who is this man?
Right.
Or your wife is looking at you like, who is this man? So just understand that.
100%, man. The last thing I'll say is, and this might not be very popular to say or think, but I don't agree with going out and dating people and learning who you're dating. I disagree with that. I believe you should be telling them who you are. Tell them who you are, what you stand for, what you don't stand for, where your line is, what your line isn't. And they're going to put themselves where they need to be. You ain't got to learn them. They're going to show you who they are based off who you telling them you are. You don't have to waste your time learning nobody else. If you tell them who you are and you stand true to what you believe and what you do and what you're not going to do, they're going to put themselves where they belong in your life.
Yeah, especially men. For the women. The women addressing the men. That I think that's really important for the ladies.
Yeah, because they even gonna say, "Oh, nah, this person's too much for me." They might even make you feel like you crazy. Oh, nah, you got too much. You got too many issues, too many things. Okay, that's cool. Well, you're not the person for me. They'll put themselves where they need to be in your life. Don't waste your time trying to learn somebody else who's trying to show you something that they're not anyway. They're already pretending to be something that they're not.
Definitely.
So why waste your time trying to learn somebody? But when you do that work that we're talking about, who you are, represent that person, who you are, and they'll put themselves where they need to be, man. They'll show you who they are.
I'm so proud of y'all. Y'all did a good job.
There your ass go again, counting and competition.
So the men up.
The pettiest shit.
Y'all redeemed yourselves, because at the beginning of this conversation, I was ready for battle.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately, what women we really want, like we really want the protection of you guys. You know what I'm saying? Like we want to feel safe with you. We want to be able to be vulnerable and just have that safe space. Like it just feels so good when you can just pour in and just be vulnerable with your man. Like it's a feeling that can't even be topped. And then that your safety isn't compromised. Even if that's your physical safety, your emotional safety, you just feel safe with this man. And I think that we yearn for that. Like that is like, we want that so bad because we're in a world where we just don't feel safe anywhere. You know what I'm saying? So, I think that that's a big part for women as well. So,
yeah. Great points.
Yeah.
Shout out to you.
Peace.